Welcome back. Next, let's take a look at the SV function. So we did already see this in our string manipulation module earlier in the fundamentals series, and we've seen the example of SV when used with strings and symbols here. So if you remember, SV stands for scalar from vector, and it allows us to concatenate many different items into one. So here when you use it as a string, we've seen I've got 3 separate strings, and then I pass the delimiter out in front. So in this case, it's going to be a comma, and you see I now got one string output from that function, and it's just combining them together with commas in between. Similar in these other examples here. When I use it with a symbol and I have a backtick out in front, it would combine them with a full stop in between. That's the default behavior when you use SV with symbols. And it has a third option, so when you pass it with a file path, and that's what we're going to talk about now. So rather than adding a full stop or whatever the string you're passing it will add a / in between when you pass file handles. And obviously /, that's how we create a file path, so that's going to be useful to us now. So let's take a look at that in action. So first of all, let's build on what we learned before. So if we look at the key of our current directory, first of all, you'll see we had those 3 files as before. If I ran first on that, I would just get the first one returned, fine. And remember, that's right now just a symbol. If I run the hsim function on that, I get my file path returned. Okay, so I'm going to call this my checkpoint directory, and we're going to save that as CP for use later on. Okay, so we see when we run key on CP, we get anything returned that's in that folder. So because this is a folder, we run key on that, we get those files returned. So if I'm running count on that, I get 4 back, and they look like this. So there are files with the hyphen checkpoint after them. Okay, so of course, again, if we tried to then create a file path out of that, we might try and do something like cp join. So I'm going to put the name of the folder out in front and join that, but it's not doing what I want. It's actually just joining that directory to the rest of them. So I'm adding in a 5th folder name there. So what I actually want is to join that out in front of each of these 5 files. So what can I use? I can use one of my iterators that we learned about before in our iterators module. And remember, when I've got the / here with the colon, it's each right, and I know it's each right because my / leans to the right. And we know our each right says take each thing on the right. So key of CP is my right. So we're going to take each of these files and I'm going to join it to the thing on the left. So what happens when we do that, when we run that, instead of getting it joined on in the same list, we get it returned out in front. I've got this as my first bit of the file path on the left, when I'm missing my / here as well. So if we just take the first one and show that, for example, here, you can see I get symbols returned there. So when it's printing out all of them, I don't see those symbols, but they are there here. So how might I add my /? So as we alluded to earlier, we can put the / in using SV. So if I take this bit up in front here and do that, it's now handily added in the / and it's converted those 2 separate symbols into one list. And it's obviously only doing it for the first one here. If I tried to just run this on all of them, I'd get an evaluation error because this is a dyadic function and I need to use both when we have the dyadic function to apply that. So let's do that. Remember, we can't just use each in here because it's dyadic. Get a parse error, so I'm going to have to use both, which was my single quote. And now, lo and behold, it's doing the same thing here. I've got this list now, and I've got all these file paths printed out, and I've got the backtick out in front of the colon, and I've also got my / separating them. Okay, so if the / here with the colon operator or this tick here is a bit confusing, head back to our iterators module where you can learn more about those. But this is allowing us to do the pairwise join when using that with SV. And if you try to use SV with just symbols and we didn't have this colon out in front, just note you get that dot. As we've seen on the code.kx.com page, the default behavior with symbols is to separate with dots, and when it has the leading colon, you basically get the / in between. And that's the difference there. Okay? So have a go at this exercise. Use SV to create this function path to table, and you want 3 inputs. So first one's going to be a directory path, a date, and a table name. And you want to return your file path like below. So this is kind of a common utility function you might have, and you can create many different file paths for loads of different dates for different tables as well. Okay, so have a go at that, and I'll see you in our next video.